Like I said in the 17.2 screencast, we got to do a little bit of light math here. So I want to show you how to calculate the Hardy-Weinberg equation, the Hardy-Weinberg law. So let's do a little review first, a little bit of genetics review. What are the names of the three possible genotypes? We have homozygous dominant, heterozygous, I'm going to abbreviate these, and homozygous recessive. So what we're going to do here is we are going to use the capital A to represent the dominant form of the gene, or allele, and lowercase a to represent the recessive form of the gene. So let's take a look at what these three genotypes look like. So I'll move this down a little bit, fill it in. The genotype name, again, we have homozygous dominant. And if you remember, we have two capital letters for that. We have heterozygous, and that's one big letter and one little letter. And then we have homozygous recessive, which is two little letters. So this is our foundation for all of this. As we're moving down here, it says let P represent the dominant allele A and Q represent the recessive allele A. So all of the genes, if we total up, 100% of the genes in the gene pool are either dominant or recessive. We're doing only two, we're assuming that there are only two alleles for this particular trait. P is the total number of dominant alleles, Q is the total number of recessive alleles. P plus Q equals 1. So we're using decimals for percentages. So 100% is equal to 1. That's all of the possible alleles in the population. So if we take a look at this, the actual genotype, homozygous dominant, and remember we're using P to represent the dominant allele A. So if our P is a variable, that's P squared. P times P. If we look at the heterozygous, we have two possibilities. If we look at a Punnett square, we have two different possibilities for heterozygous. This is homozygous dominant right here. Heterozygous is here and here. So we can get a dominant gene from one parent and a recessive gene from the other parent, or recessive gene from the first parent and dominant gene from the second parent. Now we write them both the same way, but either way we have PQ and then we have QP. Algebraically we would represent that as 2PQ. And then we have, because if we bring in the Q here, Q is representing the recessive allele, the little a. And then, so we have P squared for homozygous dominant. We have 2PQ for the heterozygous condition. Now let's figure out homozygous recessive. Little a, remember that Q is representing the allele little a. So that's going to be Q squared, 2 times Q. This represents all of the different combinations, all of the possible combinations of genes in a population. So all of the genes in the gene pool, P plus Q equals 1. Now if we move this down, I think I have to exit the drawing. So this is all going to go away. Rewind if you need to. So now if we put this all together, the total population, I'll just write the stuff on the right hand side, p squared 2pq q squared. This is all the possible combinations of genes in a population. The total population is p squared plus 2pq plus q squared equals 1. This is the Hardy-Weinberg Law, the Hardy-Weinberg equation. That if this doesn't change, if P and Q don't change, we had the 5 different things that would have to stay true about a population in order for genetic equilibrium to occur. What we're saying here is if P and Q do not change, then there is Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, and there is not evolution. There are some practice problems in your study guide that we're going to go through to make sure you understand how to do these calculations. But this is just to walk you through the process of how Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium is calculated, how it's set up, and what it all means.